Happy Friday and welcome to the Good Wife podcast. My name is Rachel Mwine and I am joined by Mr. Mwine. He's back.
Yay!
Welcome back.
Can I say I'm such a big fan of your show?
Are you?
Yeah.
Actually, you are. I know you don't watch many things on YouTube outside of cars.
Yeah.
But I've listened to you watch my show. So thank you very much for that.
It's a good show.
It is. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So Mr. Mwine is back again with us. Before I tell you what we're going to be discussing, for those of you that are new here, please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have been here, you watch, but you have never subscribed, side eye, bombastic side eye. Anyway, subscribe and share this episode with a friend or someone you think might find it useful. And every time Mr. Mwine is on the show, I like to get him talking because sometimes he likes to dodge talking. So here we are. These cards are Death Night cards by Daisy Sunshine. So you all know who Daisy Sunshine is. If you haven't subscribed to her channel, first go there, subscribe, and then come back to The Good Wife. She put together some cards with interesting questions, some of them steamy.
Yeah.
Which we shall not answer on this show. And they're perfect for date night. They're perfect for getting to know your person, conversations, connection, and just, for you to be able to look forward to more date nights with your special person. So these are what we're going to be using today. And I am going to...
Are we supposed to use this for our date night? We should start using
this for our date night. Yeah.
So always pick one?
Yes, pick one. Pick one.
Do I go first? You want to go first?
You go first. Yeah. If that's a steamy one, put it back.
Please.
Yeah, we can't answer steamy ones.
Wamba, you have rights.
This is a PG show.
Please.
Uh-huh.
No worry, it's an easy one.
Okay.
So, it's pretty straightforward. What is a song that reminds you of our love story?
Oh my God, Lionel Richie. The song is called You Are. So It wasn't done by him originally, was it?
It was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Commodores, because Lionel Richie was in a group called the Commodores, and then eventually he did the song, and then the version that you know is one that he did with Kenny Rogers on an album called Tuskegee. So my wife, like a typical pastor's daughter, doesn't know any music outside of
Ron Kenoli,
old Maranatha worship.
Lenny LeBlanc.
So I'm still struggling to teach her that there's some really good music outside of...
Good love music.
Yeah. You can't make love to a worship song. It doesn't...
But you can. Worship.
I worship you.
Worship.
No, why are you worshiping?
A spiritual atmosphere because marriage is spiritual. Anyway, so short story about that song. We'd been listening to it. So you introduced me to the song before we got married. And then we had a live band at our wedding.
Yeah.
And then... And then the live band is singing. Next thing I know, Mr. Mwine over here has picked a microphone. First of all, he cannot sing to save his life. You can't.
I can hold the notes.
If you cannot sing, you just can't. So he picks the mic and I was half embarrassed but also excited. I'm like, what is he going to do? And he hit some notes.
I can hold the note. I might not be a good singer, but I can hold the note.
Yeah, so
at least I don't flat.
That was a pleasant surprise on our wedding day.
Nice.
So the song is called You Are, by
Lionel Richie.
Yeah. Okay, so that song reminds me of our love story.
It's like our song.
Our song. And every time we have a karaoke opportunity, we definitely do that.
Yeah.
Okay, what is a small romantic gesture that still melts your heart?
From you, because I'm usually the one who's doing all the romantic gestures. Yeah.
Babe, I do stuff for you.
Give me one example.
Every single morning, it may not be romantic, but I bring you a glass of water.
And you're preempting my content for this.
Because you were asking.
Because, and that's the thing. Literally all of your life is one big romantic gesture for me.
Oh.
And I'm not saying that to try and be cheesy or whatever. It's the actual truth.
Okay.
It's me on the other hand who has to deliberately go out of my way and try and figure out what can I do.
But you try.
So I don't do too badly, I think. I try. But for you, I can't really think of. Oh wait. You bought me socks, I think.
Are you saying you to me or me to you?
I thought it's you to me.
I just gave you one. I bring you water every single morning.
Yeah, and I'm saying that everything you do on a daily basis is
a
romantic
love
gesture.
gesture.
Yeah, but if you're, so I don't think I could pick one thing that would.
So no, what do you do for me that?
What do I do for you? Whenever I find the money, I make sure I give you some.
I knew you were going to go the money
Have I
route.
lied?
Let's do one more round.
Should I tell the
One more? No, not
anniversary
today.
story?
No. No, that story is not for today.
This is
Okay,
not fair.
here you go. Pick one.
Right.
We need to enter our conversation.
Yeah, I know. Just...
Okay. Can you share about a time you felt truly seen by me?
Yeah. Most of the time, because literally all the time.
You have to pick a specific example.
A couple of months ago, you sent me a voice note acknowledging how you appreciate that I look out for you.
Yeah.
I think I'd given you a very nice gift. The last big one. I'm sure you know. You didn't see that coming, I'm sure.
I did not.
Yeah, and I think you appreciated that. You had no choice, really.
I had no choice. It was a big gesture.
Yeah, it was.
Yes,
yeah. So, what does submission and respect mean to you? What do they look like for you? Shouldn't you be the one asking me?
I should be the one asking you. Although I feel like these questions should go both ways.
I do agree.
Yeah,
so what does submission and respect mean to you? What do they look like?
I think submission and respect look like. So what do they mean to me?
Yeah.
Towards you?
I guess so.
I think for me it would be to regard you, to consider you as my priority. Submission means that I value your opinion, I value your leadership, and I prioritize your thoughts. And I consider what you would think about something before other people. Yeah.
So to be fair, the way we've sort of set ourselves up, that's a bit easy to do because we're always doing that anyway. So yeah.
So what does it mean to you? What does submission and respect mean to you?
I don't know about the submission bit.
Okay, so respect. Since you're a man.
Yeah, but the respect I think is very easy. It's the giving the benefit of the doubt, but also not being reckless with statements, but also, most importantly, and I think this is one thing we've thought about in the past, not second guessing me if I make a call.
Okay, that's different from like when we're having silly arguments, like.
Those ones already silly. You can. I think you can tell the difference between the silly arguments and the ones where I'm thinking, hey, please, don't.
Like when you were just arguing with Agri, the architect, about a house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of argument.
Yeah, but then there's now one like the one we've had where I'm making a call on how we should discipline Micah, for example, and you're trying to maybe fight back against it. I think, especially for a man, there are certain decisions that we take where I need you to be able to understand that that decision has been taken with a lot of consideration, monitoring, research, needs assessment, and all the big English words you can find in there. And I think for many women, a lot of the things for you will be more emotional than not. So by the time a man gets to make a decision, they literally have weighed a lot of things. Okay. They've measured, they've counted, they've done, so they've reached that conclusion. So when you second guess that and question it, I'm not saying you shouldn't maybe ask for clarity or whatever, but many times I think a lot of women, unfortunately, coming from the emotional perspective, will either just issue a rebuttal against the decision or, in some cases, outright question it. And I think that can be a cause for problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's fair enough and kind of gives us a nice segue into what we're supposed to be discussing today. We were wondering, okay, thinking about why couples conflict. And so we wanted to kind of go through what are some of those reasons, maybe based some of them on our experience, on why we see conflict in marriages. First of all, conflict is inevitable. I think let's start there. But I think the not resolving the conflict, that one is a whole other story. So why, in your opinion, do
I think conflict is healthy. You're two different people from two different backgrounds. You have different chromosomes in your body. That by default is room for conflict. Objects, if you want to go scientific, objects cannot exist in a vacuum. There can be no movement unless there's friction. And I think there's good friction and bad friction. If you're in a slippery surface, I like to use cars as an example. If you put cars in a place where there are bathroom tiles, the car will struggle to move. There'll be a lot of friction, but little movement. The reason you have tarmac roads and why they are good is because they are good friction. They allow the car to be able to move
seamlessly
while staying stable. So there is sort of, if you want to call it friction or conflict, but it's one where the road and the car agree that you are going that way.
That way, yes.
And so I think that especially for couples, you're a man, she's a woman. You're a woman, he's a man. That's conflict.
Already.
That's conflict.
Before you even open your mouth to speak.
Every 20-something or so days, there are things that happen in her body
that are a recipe for conflict.
that cause her to become a different person. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You are right.
Right? As a man, if you've not taught yourself to be acutely aware of the fact that your wife, that your woman, every month, at some point becomes a different being, and then get offended because she reacted in a particular manner or feel hurt because she didn't do something, there's going to be cause for conflict. So one, that the genes, the biological makeup, the issues of background then now come in. You grew up in two different places, you grew up in two different systems, you probably went to two different schools of thinking in terms of culture. You might be two different tribes.
Yeah.
Right? Us Banyankore have particular ways of doing things. They actually have particular ways of doing things. If those two
come
together, there's naturally going to be conflict. So if you are not self-aware, and for me to bring it home, that's what it comes down to. As long as there's lack of self-awareness, there's always going to be conflict. Because if I'm self-aware and I see conflict, at least I know where it's coming from, and then I have a bit of an understanding of, okay, now this is how I approach this in a manner that doesn't aggravate the conflict or exacerbate it or, completely blow it out of proportion. I'm able to be self-aware and say, oh, this is from my background. I'm prone to anger. I need to calm down. Right? Oh, she's in her period. It's the hormones talking. I need to be a bit more gentle in terms of how I deal with that. If you don't have that self-awareness, and then combine that with a bit of pride and selfishness and all the other things that come through, and personality, of course, then literally you can take a very small thing, like putting a spoon on the table, and you go a week without talking because of that. Of all the things that sort of pile onto that.
Yeah. And I mean, the spoon on the table is not really the issue.
No.
It's all the other deep-seated things. I was having a conversation with someone that you recommended for the show, Reverend Birungi
I
Biaris.
love that man.
Amazing guy.
Yeah.
And he talked a lot about baggage and the things that we bring from our backgrounds, the kind of families that we grew up in. And for me, my light bulb moment is Micah is watching us now. Like the family that he's in, the marriage that he's seeing is informing the individual that he's going to become 20 years from today.
Yeah.
And so...
You should tell some stories about how he's learned this stuff. Every time we're at home in the evening and maybe you and I get into any sort of an argument, he instantly comes out and says, "Hey, don't talk
Don't talk to your wife like
that."
that. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's learned that very quickly. When I ask him, whose side are you on? You have taught him.
I taught
you
him,
taught
yes,
him
that you should always say you're on the side of love.
Right.
Like you're not either on daddy's side or mommy's side. You're on
Yeah.
the side of love. You want the marriage to work. And so he keeps repeating it. I don't know if he
I
understands
think
it.
he does. I think you can tell from the way he responds that he actually does.
Yeah. So he's definitely, he has an understanding of, okay, so this is a marriage.
Yeah.
There's a husband and there's a wife. So he knows we got married in 2013 and, he's a product of that marriage. But let's talk a bit about baggage and the things that we bring into our marriages. From our upbringing, from what we saw our parents doing, just also from your worldview, what do you think about women in general? Again, that might be informed by how you saw your mom being treated or how your father treated your mom. And so maybe you have a warped view of who women are and the way they're supposed to be treated. Culture also affects how we relate with each other in relationships. But let's talk a bit about baggage.
There's a lot of it. And it comes again, you've pretty much nailed most of it. I grew up in a family of 6 boys. I've said before, I think even on this show, my mom, for all intents and purposes, could not really be described as a woman because she was like a ninja.
Yeah.
And I love her for that.
Yeah.
I never got to see my mom being a girly girl in any shape or form, right?
And that affected you in some shape or form.
I think it did. I don't doubt that it did.
Yeah.
I went to a boys' school for 6 years in Barra High School. You only got to see girls maybe once a term when Mary Hill came for social. So for you, being able just to see a girl was an event, My very first encounter with, true encounter with opposite sex was when I did a second year at Caltech Academy, because that was a mixed school. And then you're hanging with all these females, but even then you don't have an opportunity to grow strong relationships. And so that in a big way then forms my understanding of women, or lack of.
Or lack of understanding, yes.
Right, for that matter. So almost, and I've said this again also, I think on the show, maybe 90% of the things that I know about women I've learned from you or through you. Right? I mean, I'd had some relationships before, but they were not at the level which you and I are able to communicate and relate. And so I've learned almost everything I can know about women
through marriage,
by interacting with you through marriage. And I think also explains why for a certain chunk of our marriage, because I didn't understand these things very well, I reacted in ways that I thought were right and it was going to be a problem always. But as I learn a bit more how women work, how women think, how to approach these things, then I'm becoming a bit more self-aware. I'm a bit more deliberate about how to deal with certain things, how to respond to certain things. And I don't want to brag, but I think I've grown, right?
You have grown. You have grown. I'm here to certify that you have grown. The other thing I think for me that really speaks to conflict is our fallen nature. And I think you alluded to this a while back, that we are born into a fallen world. And so naturally we are selfish. Naturally we are self-centered. Naturally we want things to be done in a way that pleases us. It's about me. It's about what I want. It's about my desires. There's pride in there. There's, all sorts of, fallenness that we are dealing with. And I think it's important for anybody watching to recognize that that's always at play.
Yeah, but and we will go back to the whole issue of self-awareness, because many people will kwekaza, right?
Yeah.
Their background has led them to a point where they're extremely self-centered. We have a mutual friend. If I talk about them, I'm sure you'll eventually figure out who it is, who has grown up in a difficult situation all of her life, and her default setting has always been self-preservation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So for her, every relationship that they come into, it's from the perspective of self-preservation.
Yes.
Me.
Yeah.
So even in the point where they would extend grace or be nice or do whatever. They are instantly.
It's to protect themselves, to preserve themselves. Yes.
And if you don't have that self-awareness to know that, you know what, I grew up in a place where I have anger issues, or I am irrational as a woman, I make reckless statements. We both know people who say things and you're thinking, why would anyone say that? Like, why?
Yeah.
Right?
How did it get out of your head?
Like, how did you allow it to pass through?
Yes.
If you don't have that level of self-awareness, unfortunately, so there's a combination of things that sort of make up the whole component that is what you call the fallen nature, right? Selfishness, pride, self-preservation. There's a very big one nowadays, especially among our young people, entitlement. And the problem with entitlement in particular is that a person who is entitled never knows that they're entitled.
It's so sad.
That's sort of the definition of
almost
entitlement.
Like, when can we tell them?
But they never get it.
Yeah, they won't.
So you can imagine now marrying to a person who has grown up with a really elevated sense of self-entitlement. In some cases, because it was allowed or permitted by their parents long enough that this is who they have become. I think you and I have thought about this, especially in regards to discipline, of where I'm thinking, hey, that boy, no, he needs to understand that little behavior is unacceptable, because if you allow it early on, as they transition into teenagehood and then into young adults, then you suddenly have a problem, because now that is who that person thinks they are, and anything outside of that, for them, is seen as an attack on them.
Yes.
They are incapable of seeing that, oh, I'm being entitled. Them, they are seeing, you are attacking me. Now, bring that into a relationship, and you have problems.
You have problems, yeah.
And it's not necessarily their fault, right?
No.
They might not be self-aware at that point, but woe unto you. I keep telling, again, I can only speak from the perspective of men, right? So I'm not trying to be sexist here. I'm trying to qualify my statement. But I'm always telling young men who are starting to date, and I tell them, guys, I don't think you are able to comprehend the amount of pain and the quality of premium tears that come from marrying someone who is entitled. You will feel that burden. You will be incapable of extracting yourself from this burden. But as you say, you want to go and divorce them, but you won't really have grounds for divorce if you think about it, because if you look at it, it's something that you can work with.
Yeah.
And for many people, it's something that you just have to deal with the rest of your life. And so for me, it's a thing of drive to self-awareness. Try and make sure that at least, even if a person is entitled, they are able to recognize it.
Yeah.
And then now you can start the journey of the rest of your lives of helping this person become a bit less entitled.
Yeah, less entitled. And I think continuing to speak about the fallen nature, even when we think about our marriages and how the enemy obviously isn't happy that we are in a marriage. We are working towards unity. We are working towards oneness. Therefore, there's going to be weapons forged against us or formed against us, like the Bible says, to try and get us to disagree. And that disagreeing is not just for the sake of conflict, because we've said conflict is inevitable. It's so that you might find fault. It's so that you might criticize, that you might judge, and then the next steps become separation, or I can't live with this person anymore. This is not what I signed up for. So you need to understand that there's that aspect of conflict. So there's healthy conflict, and conflict is necessary. Dr. Evers likes to say that outside of conflict, sometimes you won't even grow as a couple.
You can't
grow as a couple, So you need to be able to know that in order for us to move to the next stage, sometimes there has to be some friction for me to know, okay, this is what my husband likes, or this is what my wife likes, this is what they don't appreciate, this is what they appreciate. And sometimes that only comes from a place of conflict.
One of the key things that I keep coming back to whenever we get to this point is the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that you're in agreement with me. Marriage is a spiritual construct. It is something that was created by God. And outside of that, you cannot say you're married. as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm.
Because if you do, the drama that you're going to have, there's a verse that says a cord of three strands is not easily broken, and that third strand is God. Without God in the marriage, you're doomed by default.
This is true.
The chances of you surviving and having a happy marriage, if it is not held together by love the way God purposed for it,
yeah,
it's just too much work. Actually, I pity you. You know you're going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that being married in a Christian marriage, you're going to be happy? No.
Not
we see so many marriages, even in the Christian setting, that are completely falling apart and miserable, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is this. Because marriage is a construct of heaven and spiritual and created by God, the antithesis of that, or the opposite of what God intended, is the devil. He will try and pervert everything, try you have issues to do with pornography and women becoming, sexualized. And there's a whole story. I think for me, pornography and other things that come with that, how that gets translated. But the point I wanted to make in this particular context is this. The enemy's biggest weapon against you is your spouse.
True. He or she is actually the closest.
The enemy's biggest weapon against you is your spouse. Now, what does that mean? It means that if the enemy, we're talking about Satan here, just in case someone is, not getting the idea.
Not a co-wife or a side dish.
No. Husbands can be allies, actually, if you handle it properly. I'm just saying.
Take that back.
I'm just saying. The enemy's biggest weapon is your spouse. Why? When you get married, when you become one, for you to become one, usually means that you have allowed a certain level of access into the most inner recesses
of your life,
of your being. Right? You're giving access to somebody you're supposed to. There are people who don't. And that's also going to be a problem for you, because if you're not able to really give yourself fully, then there's a problem. The true oneness comes from you being able to give. I think when you're in the church during the vows, they say, "All I am,
I give to you.
All I have." When you are able to do that, what it means is that then you give a license to your spouse to be able to do the most damage to you.
This is true.
So everything that they do that hurts you will hurt more.
Yeah.
Everything they do to annoy you will annoy you more than your parent would, than your colleague would, than your friend would. The devil knows that. And so his entire purpose, the enemy comes to steal, to kill, to destroy. He doesn't sleep. 24/7. I was going to say he wakes up every morning, but he doesn't. The devil, 24/7, is trying to figure out, how can I be able to get these two people to turn against each other? It's not a one-off. He does this as long as you are both breathing and living.
True.
And if you're not aware of that, it is very easy for you to attack your spouse while you should be attacking what the devil is trying to do through them.
Your spouse. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he's going to try and do some things. And I'm not saying there's no room to be able to say what your spouse did was stupid, therefore it needs to be handled.
You should.
But you must always be aware of the fact that there are many things
at play
that your spouse is going to do that was not them. They managed to let their guard down. The enemy whispered things in their ear. They acted on those things. Things escalated very quickly. And now you're divorced because you failed to understand that the enemy used your spouse. And even there at that point probably needed help. And which is why for me, the thing I'm always telling people is that more than anything else, try and extend the benefit of doubt to that person. Try and look at it from that perspective. Because I'm prone to making mistakes more than the average person, right? I think it's probably easy for me, right? My glass house is held together by sellotape, so I am incapable of throwing stones. I keep telling people. But you need to be always aware of that. And again, it's something that I say, I think in this particular case, especially to women. never put yourself in a place where you think you are too good for your spouse or you're too righteous. So because someone has made a mistake, that's the end, that's it. How dare they? And then you read the red act. Many times it might be something where they were influenced by something that is beyond them.
Yeah.
So how you approach that is a whole different story, but as long as you remember.
And that could happen both ways.
It does
happen
both ways.
It could happen, vice versa, that a woman does something and her husband completely throws her out because he feels like this is unforgivable.
Yeah.
This is beyond me. I didn't sign up for this. And I think that the reason we're having this conversation is for purposes of awareness. I think you need to be aware. One of the things that Reverend Birungi Yusuf mentioned is you need to have constant awareness and consciousness that you are married.
Yeah.
Just everywhere you go, he said it doesn't matter if you're in the toilet, you're in the bus, you are at work, just have that awareness. It will help you build boundaries, it will help you extend grace, it will help you give benefit of doubt that you're not for yourself anymore.
Yeah.
There's someone else to consider.
You don't exist in isolation.
Exactly. There's someone else to consider. There's someone else to regard. There's someone else to forgive, and to forgive so many times. And so the reason we are having this conversation is to tickle your awareness to conflict, that happens in marriages and why it happens. Don't think of it as everyday life and, oh my gosh, I'm just suffering and we fight all the time and we are constantly in disagreement. That might be a sign of something bigger. And so really the reason we are having this discussion is for you to be aware of it and then to be aware of the different things that will cause conflict. We've talked about our fallen nature, we've talked about background, we've talked about our selfishness and many other things that we may not exhaust on this show.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you're married and you didn't get married to the man because he has money, or didn't get married to the woman because you like her nyash.
Oh dear.
If you're married and you look at this person, spent a little bit of time with them and said, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, it means that there was something there that brought you together. That thing is always there. Unless you married a serial killer, unless you married a complete, narcissist or whatever. The majority of the time, and there will be exceptions, right? But the majority of the time, if you two decided that we want to get married, there was something in that foundation that you can always go back to if you choose to. The challenge is that after you get married, because you didn't have the perspective and the context of the stuff we talked about, upbringing, background, personality, all of these things, then it creates different avenues for conflict. And if you've not been able to deal with them early on and they pile up, you've not been able to find a language where you find a middle ground and communicate. You've not been able to find a place where you know how to be respectful and nice to each other, then things go south very quickly. I insist that any relationship that you have had, especially if you're married, can be restored if you're willing to get over yourself.
Sure.
It's never about the other person.
Nope.
Right?
The choice lies
It's
with you.
never about the other person
Yeah.
or them coming back to say sorry or them coming kneeling on their knees, licking the ground,
Because
begging for forgiveness.
we've seen that happen and
Yeah.
still someone will choose not to engage. Yeah.
I think that anything can be restored. It won't be easy.
Nope.
It will actually, in some cases, take a lot of time. But if you have at any point made a decision that I want to spend my life with Rachel, no matter what she does, if you choose to get over yourself,
Jump over yourself.
which is always the hardest thing,
Yes.
you're able to then slowly rebuild something that actually eventually then puts you in a much better place than you even were before that happened, because now you've jumped over literally a whole new level of a hurdle.
Yeah. And it's amazing things on the other end if you're able to, like overcome yourself and what you want and all of that. But I wanted to talk about what has helped us. And so obviously we'll talk individually. What has helped you in terms of conflict in our marriage that you think might be useful to another couple that's watching?
Again, can only speak to the perspective of a man. That's what I understand well. There's a saying in Unyankore, akasinje no keha.
You need to explain that.
Translated crudely, it means you alone can be able to give yourself peace, right? In the bigger context of things, spiritually, even you are capable of that. It's only God who gives you peace that surpasses all understanding. There's that song, He Won't Fail. I like the way they put it. Peace that makes no sense.
Yeah.
That can only come from God, but only you can be able to find peace. I've been a preacher of finding peace at your level for pretty much my entire life. I've seen it work for me. Actually, I wanted to share an example of something that happened just last week in that regard. That when you decide that I am not going to be offended by what someone else does, no matter whether I have justification or not, the amount of peace that comes with it can't be described in English. I'll give you a very basic example of what just happened. I'm driving up the hill on stretcher in Ntinda. Up the hill, okay? Driving up the hill, going up towards Ntinda in the evening traffic. And the guy comes and bashes me from the back.
Wait, when was this?
Like 2 weeks ago.
No, you didn't tell me.
I didn't?
Wow.
Yeah, because I let it go. I didn't even think about it after that. True story, by the way. So the guy comes and bashes me from the back. It's the bumper. So I get out of the car and I'm walking towards him. I think he expected that guy as a kuruana, right? Which some people do, right? So I'm going up to his window. No, he's almost taking on a defensive posture. And I ask him, "Are you okay?" And it wasn't "Are you okay?" in the head. No. It was a genuine,
"Are you okay?"
Are you
considering
all right?
what happened. Yes.
Because for you to ram someone when you're going up the hill means that you're either distracted or there's stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a man. I've been in a place where you're thinking, "Oh crap, the school has said Jeremiah doesn't go back next week if he doesn't have tuition. Rachel is saying she wants to do her hair. Simani."
Yeah.
For a man, you know that mentality, right? And I can understand why someone would be going through a lot of stress, right? So for me, it's not a thing of, "Oh, you've busted me, my car." No. Are you okay? Right? Like I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "Are you fine?" He said, yeah, I'm okay. I just said, "Okay, no worries." And I get back into the car and I drive off. Because it's not that, damage wasn't that bad, right? Two things to consider. On my side, that's it. I had completely even forgotten about that until talking about it today. So I have peace, right? No worries. No, it's all right. I'm cool, right? On the other hand, for this guy, you've extended grace.
Yeah.
What does that do for him to understand that someone who had a right to be upset and angry with me, legally, in every sense of the word, didn't make a big deal out of it, right? On the other hand, for me, if I now choose to pursue this thing, we're going to say, "You first park the car there. Let's bring a traffic policeman. There's from Indiana police station. The policeman is going to ask for fuel. Then your border guys have gathered. Then now you have to find your garage. They managed to do
your mechanic.
Or because of 200K to repair a bumper.
Yeah.
Is that worth the peace? For me, no. Right? If you translate that into relationships and marriages, and speaking, to the question about what have I learned that has worked, learning not to take offense.
That one.
Why? Because I don't think there's ever a day when you wake up and say, "Today I'm going to make Ben's life miserable."
I used to feel like that was your mission in life in the first years of our marriage. Like, I think this one just intentionally wants to make me miserable.
Why would anybody do that?
I don't know.
Right? If they do,
sorry,
that's it. I don't know. But I believe that no one goes out of their way to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to make my spouse's life miserable. I hope so. And if I approach it from that perspective, then does it mean that you don't do things that would cause me to be upset? No.
Most likely will. Oh, you mean intentionally?
Yeah, of course not. Yeah. But there would be times when you might do something that I'm not happy with. But am I going to think that, how could she do that? No. My instant approach to it is, oh, that's happened. If I need to communicate it,
you will.
I will, and I do, I think.
Yeah.
Right? But it won't be from the perspective of, I want to pick a fight. No, I'm just trying to communicate that this has happened. Please be aware of it. Right? So that if it's something that can be avoided in the future, it can be avoided. But now then, for me to hold on to that beef doesn't make any sense. When we were at the men's encounter last year, which is where I met Reverend Yesu and fell in love with them, they said something very, very interesting because I think the current CJ at Youre, our good friend Musinguzi, he said something incredible that I've never forgotten. He said there are many times when someone offends you, but you're the one who sins.
Often.
I will repeat
times,
that.
Yeah.
Someone wrongs you, offends you, but it is you
who
sins.
Yeah.
How? The bitterness, the vindictiveness, the unforgiveness that emanates out of whatever this person has done.
Out of the offense.
Where then they are apologetic, they are remorseful, they've repented before you and before God, they are kawa. Now it is you who is holding on to
this thing.
And I think you have been there before, haven't you?
Do you want to share an example?
I'm just saying, like at the time when we were having all these fights, yeah, I'm like, oh, I've done something. Well, I'm kawa. Let me go watch Liverpool. I'm sure she'll be fine. She'll come around you.
That's different, dear husband. Very different. Very, very different. Let's not even go there. Let's not even go there. But I hear what you're saying on, being offended and choosing to give yourself peace from the perspective of this person might be dealing with something. Let me offer them grace. And it does something for the relationship. Imagine this person is a complete stranger. But now imagine doing that in a relationship, a marriage, where you extend grace where someone does not deserve the grace, but you give it to them anyway. What that does for your marriage, the love deposit that you have made, that's huge, and it will take you for years. But I think one of the other things that you and I like to talk about is considering the other person. So, and I think it's really, from the example that you have given, being considerate of the other person. You used to say this thing a lot in the first years of our marriage, giving benefit of doubt. And I never felt like you deserved it. With good reason.
Wow.
You were rarely apologetic. You just used to argue about things and just throw around big English words. So I'd be like, he does not even deserve benefits of doubt. He doesn't. But I see now how many couples, and it could be both men and women, fall into that trap of, because you're constantly criticizing and finding fault, it's very easy to think that the other person doesn't deserve anything, because for you, their rap sheet is so long. You're like, they are such terrible human beings. I don't even know how I married this person, but it's because you have chosen to focus on their weaknesses and their faults. And I think in trying to resolve conflict, or just to be aware of it, is in changing your perspective to say, I'm going to regard my spouse as just a decent human being. They have their flaws, they have their weaknesses. So do I. Therefore, I'm going to consider them. I'm going to extend grace. I'm going to give benefit of doubt.
It's not that they don't deserve to be kind. I think we must put a very strong context for this. The whole idea of extending grace or giving benefit of the doubt, which in many cases can easily be abused and end up causing even more damage, right? Again, it's not about the other person. It's about me and what I'm doing. When we are told to love, what love is. So interestingly, we have the blueprint. It's been given. It's right there in very clear black and white.
Mm-hmm.
We just choose to ignore it because it's not convenient for us, because it looks like it is hard work, and it doesn't make sense. But here's what we're told. Love is patient.
Love is kind.
Sorry, what?
Is kind.
What?
Is kind.
And then it goes on to say what else?
Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is
not boastful. Is not self-seeking.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
keep a record of wrongs.
Each of those small tenets alone is enough to turn your marriage around.
That's true.
Combine all of them for you. Forget about your spouse. And that's the problem. But how come he, how come she, but even her, but even him? No. This is about you. You do your part. Right? There keeps no record bit in that manual for love. I think is the one that probably does the most damage to marriages.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I must point the finger
to the women
because of the makeup, right? How we are created to be emotional and all of these things. It's not uncommon, and I think that I'm sure even men do it. But if we are to be honest, I think women do it a lot more. Even 4 years ago, you did something like...
4 years ago. This conversation will be recorded.
And then sometimes you will hold
purposes.
On to things and then put them in a context that is not very fair. Statements like this. You never do this.
You always.
By using one thing that happened.
Maybe there are 10.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm saying in some cases, it can even be one thing. Right? You never think about me. In fact, remember when we were going to your mother's place, you said this. In fact, you don't. The other guy is thinking, right? That erodes something. Add on to that, it erodes something. And it's very easy for you to then go 3-4 years, where you put him on a sham. Okay, that's a bit harsh. Not a sham. You're going through the motions and putting on a semblance of what is a marriage or a relationship, because you must fulfill righteousness. You're in this thing. You're balancing. But we have kids, but we are together. It
will be too messy.
Let's be.
Let me just allow.
Until eventually you're like, you know what? Nah, it's okay. I'm done. Because all these things have been built up. I think if you teach yourself to be able to just, on a case by case basis, deal with this stuff, which is why for me the communication becomes very important. The ability, the conflict we were talking about, that's healthy. You say, but madam, what you did, no. I can give a very basic example of what happened with us this week.
Okay.
I complained to you about not touching me.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, I'm like, but madam, you know that
it's important to you.
I'm the president of the Cuddlers Association. Like, in the morning.
Cuddlers Association! I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, honorary president. Because it's such a big deal, it's very easy for me to just hold on to that and just feel like my wife doesn't care about me anymore. She's not deliberate about just trying to be affectionate or intimate, right? And then it just, but because it's something you've handled right there, and then I know it's something that you are aware of because you know how I feel about it, and I'm sure that you're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
Which you did, I think, either yesterday night. You
don't even remember. It's okay.
Because after that, the following day,
I did something
cuddled
about
properly, and so.
This cuddling thing, oh Lord. Anyway, no, giving. I think that in terms of, so back to giving yourself peace. Yeah. There's very many opportunities for conflict in marriage that you don't always have to give into. You don't have to address everything. I was having a conversation with one of the wives in our accountability marrieds community. We're a group of 6 couples. So I was having a conversation with her. She was like, man, Rachel, I think I've come to this place where there are things I see. I just see them and I ignore them. If I have hands, I do the thing. I organize my husband's office. He comes back, he disorganizes it. it doesn't piss me off anymore. And I was like, it has taken you a while because we've been married around same time,
Pretty
so
much, yeah.
12 years.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I spent the first like 5-6 years I would fuss about everything. I wanted to address everything because the counselors told us we must talk about our problems. So I would want to address everything from he has left his socks where the banana peel is here, then he left the glass in the bedroom.
And it's still there.
And that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
that those things still happen. They are just not a big deal to me anymore.
But in all fairness, this time when you call out the banana peel, I am aware that it's a silly thing to do. So I'm able to actually, I think we need to point out, it's those small things that can create a big mess, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know where it even comes from, but I peel a banana, I eat it.
You put the peel on the counter.
I put the peel on the counter. It's something that I've just always done.
Really?
I
don't understand it.
But it's what it is, right? So, but now then for you, and this last week, when you say, but Mr. Mwine, the
trash can is over there.
And then I'm thinking,
yeah,
actually it is right there, right?
Okay.
I don't know, so maybe it's because growing up, maybe I would know that I would put the peel there and then pick it up later on and put it somewhere. I don't know, effects of being a bachelor for a while. I don't know.
Maybe.
But it's...
Yeah.
Because I lived alone for a while, so I'll put the peel there, and then at some point I'll either have someone who would come and clean the place, or I would...
Yeah.
But it was this week?
It was this week.
So when you pointed out that, like literally,
and you know what?
The trash can was nearer than the counter.
You know what's interesting is that now I point it out not from a place of aggravation. Like I'm not upset.
Yeah.
I'm not even wondering. Like
I think actually the word to use is you sounded amused.
Exactly. I'm so amused. I'm like, the trash can is here. Like, how are you putting your peel here?
Yeah.
And it's for many things, by the way. It's when I get back home and the bed is not laid, or you left a glass in the bedroom, or weird things like that. I'm just like, okay, Rachel, you have hands, pick up the glass and take it. And I think if you train yourself not to be upset or not to sweat the small things, and by the way, this is advice that they give us when we are just getting married. They tell you don't sweat the small things. You're like, I got you. I'm not going to sweat the small things.
Until
then you get in there and you sweat the very small things. So I feel like they tell us things, we go through them sometimes, and then we experience them, then we learn the lessons. Like, this is what they meant.
Can you give a very big, simple example? Because you bring me a glass of water every morning. I almost always never have to ask for it. So I'm running late, so I've taken the glass of water, I left the glass there and gone around and that starts because I want to extend my sleep as much as I can. Scenario one, okay, not sweating small stuff, take glass, put kitchen, problem solved, right? Scenario two, but what's wrong with you?
Yeah, if you left the glass in
how can you? Are you even saying, babe? What nonsense is this? Do I look like your slave? And then all of a sudden,
the glass.
And then now that's carrying through the day. So you've both gone into
defense mode.
And then everything else that then happens now latches onto that. And you've taken away the ability to actually be able to have harmony, something that you could maybe even let go and not even bother about, but it now becomes a source of conflict, which done in confluence with a number of other things, which the devil is now aware of and is now saying, oh, I've got her.
I see the issue.
Then you end up in a point where it becomes a bigger fight that culminates in you not talking for 2-3 weeks, during which time someone else at work is suddenly being very nice, right? And one thing leads to another, and you don't realize it was simply because you just didn't being able to just pick up a glass and take it to the kitchen. And it goes both ways, not just for the glass it will be for the women, even for the men there'll be small things that a harsh word to your wife, right? You asked her to do something, right? One of the most common ones is usually around, say, for the women who get up to their many times of wardrobe, right? But you, woman, where are my shoes?
Where are my socks? I think that question, it doesn't matter how you ask it, it's just infuriating. Why are you asking me about your socks? Can you find somewhere to keep them?
But I do, and you always take them away, right? Like,
No, babe. You are not in charge of your socks. Let's not even go there.
okay, fair point.
Yeah,
That's good.
you
Yeah,
really are
I
not.
never. What do I always ask? What? I said I can't find.
I can't
find
find
any
of my socks.
Yeah.
Then you go ahead to give a random number. I used to have like 30 pairs of socks, and that number keeps changing every 2 weeks. Then after 2 weeks, I used to have like 25 pairs of socks. I'm like, which is which? Were they 25? Were they 30? Make up your mind and pick a struggle. Anyway, so back to, I think when I mentioned to you that I wanted us to talk about this, I said, so after we've diagnosed the problem, we need to be able to give some solutions. And I think we kind of have. The last one that I would want you to talk about is something that you preach a lot, especially when we are talking to couples, is just being nice to each other.
There's nothing further to add. What does it cost you to be nice to somebody?
Sometimes a lot.
What?
Okay, little.
What?
Almost nothing.
It takes away nothing from you.
Yeah.
There's something that, and I think, again, I have to keep qualifying this statement. I can only speak from the perspective of the men. Because we are rational and logical and want to approach things from a common sense point of view, whatever, all these things, we end up being extremely unreasonable and end up being harsh and mean and say things that are really unnecessary, where you would have been able to extend grace. Every time I talk to any men who are married and maybe having issues in their marriage, usually because of communication, I give them advice that sounds really almost condescending, and I don't even know if I should say it on this show because...
Don't say it. Okay. I know you. Don't.
But let's just say, I always tell them, the Bible doesn't say treat your wife as the weaker sex for no reason. Okay? It doesn't mean that the woman is beneath you. It doesn't mean that they are whatever. There's a particular reason why, in terms of, what's the word? Fragility. Okay? Can we agree? Can we reach consensus that by default, women are more fragile than men?
Okay. I don't know if fragile is the word that I would use, but I understand your argument. Yeah.
Right? And I don't want the feminists coming at me.
We're strong. We get it.
Your makeup, the way you are created, is that you are softer.
That's a better word.
Right? Both physically and otherwise. Right? You are softer. Which is the blessing that God has given to you, which is the superpower that God has given to you. For many generations, men have taken advantage of that and they misused it. And because your father abused your mother's softness and took advantage of it and mistreated her and treated her like trash, you've now steeled yourself and guarded yourself against anything that is soft. So you want to be
macho.
It's not your natural disposition. It doesn't end well for you. You can live through life and you'll be okay, right? But it's not how you are naturally made to be. Right? And so I tell men, understand that your wife is the softer being. So the way you approach them, there's that thing when you're carrying glasses in a box, there's always a sign on the outside that says fragile. Handle
with
care.
Yeah.
This is how men are supposed to treat their women. Right? Fragile, handle with care. Does that mean that the glass might want to jump out of the box? It's not up to you to control. If you're carrying the box across the room, whichever way you're carrying it, and the glass begins to shake, your duty is to try and make sure that you're handling this glass in a manner that it won't break. Any indiscriminate or inconsiderate amount of force is going to cause that glass to break. Any violent shaking of that box is going to cause that glass to break. How do you as a man remain aware of this? And again, I'm not going to focus on what women should do or shouldn't. That's your business. I can only speak from the perspective of a man to the men. When you understand this and learn how to handle your wife with that level of care, I believe, I think I've seen it in our relationship, it allows you to then enjoy all the benefits that come with your woman feeling heard, treasured, loved. And I don't think there's a bigger blessing for a man than a woman who looks at her man and says, my man treasures me. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a woman, so I wouldn't know this.
On the right path.
I honestly don't think as a man you can get a bigger blessing than your wife being secure in you and in who you are and in who you are to her. Forget all the other things, respect, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff comes as second nature. But for you to have that confidence and knowing that my wife is secure in who I am to her and that I have got her back, I think is the biggest blessing that any man can get. And it comes from being able to give the woman that confidence through the way you respond to her, through the way you acknowledge. I learned that word now.
Good job.
Through being able to acknowledge. Acknowledge in many cases means you might not even understand what on earth is going on over there. But being able to say, I hear you.
And I hear you.
I acknowledge that you're dealing with something. I am here. And if you can be able to do that,
I think
what can go wrong?
What can go wrong? Yeah, and let's hope that on this other side, as the woman, that while you are softer in the relationship, it does not mean that your husband, even though he doesn't express emotions, doesn't get hurt by the words you say, does not get offended, does not feel upset. Basically, he may not be as expressive as you are, but he has feelings too. And I think for me, this is a trap that I fell into, which is why I was like, but he doesn't even deserve benefit of doubt, For me, it just seemed like you were always just cool. When the house seems to be on fire, for you are ice somewhere seated in a corner watching Liverpool. And so I think I learned not to put into consideration your feelings so like when we'd have arguments and you're like, I'm hurt, I'd be like, in what universe are you hurt? Because me, I have come with my bucket load of hurt and it's probably bigger than yours. Yours is actually non-existent. And I think that many women fall into this trap where they think, I can say anything I want to say because after all, I am hurt. I'm full of emotion and I am so upset. Like, how could you do A, B, C, D, E? And you find women making very reckless statements that they cannot come back from.
Can we talk about that for a moment?
That's why I went there.
The things that people say to each other.
Yeah. Out of emotion.
Out of emotion, out of pain, out of hurt, out of anger. You can never undo words. And the way that words cut is... Because you might feel some of this stuff. You're thinking, this man, I wish he were dead, right? Eventually, you might be able to overcome that and say, you know what, maybe I overreacted and come and deal with that.
Yeah.
But imagine if you're actually saying it out loud to this man. You know what, I wish you were dead.
You have to spend the rest of your life proving that you didn't mean it.
And I'm using that as the extreme end of the scale.
Yeah.
But even in the middle, there's so much stuff that people say that is so, like...
reckless.
We've had this conversation before, and my stand is the same, it's never changed. There are certain things that you cannot say to somebody that you say you love. Okay? And the way I approach this for me is very simple. Think about your children. Okay. Maybe not a very good example because there are people who say some really nasty things to their children.
Their kids, yes.
Yeah, God have mercy on them. But you would understand this. There are things that you will never say to Michael or Jeremiah. Ever.
Ever.
Even when they've driven you up the wall, the guy has come and taken a marker and painted the entire wall. Right? There are things you might wallop him, yes, right? But in terms of words,
never.
Ruanagwe. Origusiru. How do you say that to your own child?
How do you come back from that?
What damage do you think that does to the child? Now, the people who usually say these reckless things have been victims of them, so they grew up being told by their fathers.
What they know.
You have brains in your head.
Yeah. Are you thinking?
Are you thinking? What's wrong with you?
You see them on the road. You know, you you go past someone and they do this. And I'm just like...
It's because in most cases, that's what they were told by their teacher, by their father.
Yeah.
So it's how they feel they need to communicate to you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for words, for men, from the perspective of men are incapable of unhearing things.
I think in general, let's not say men.
I want to insist that because of how, again, predisposed women are to being a little more emotional, it's usually much easier for you to get over certain things quickly, which is why women end up in abusive relationships. The man batters her, does all these stupid things, and then comes back and says all these sweet, nice things, and then she comes back, right? Which in itself is a good thing. It means that for you as a woman, as a person, you are gracious, you're forgiving, you're accommodating, even though
it's not a good situation.
I understand. I was saying that, right? However, on the other side, for the man, when you come and tell me, and the example that I always give, which we and I have experienced through one of the couples we dealt with, when a woman comes and says to you, I wish I had married my ex.
Forgive and forget.
I might be wrong,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's any man who is ever going to unhear that.
Again, yeah. For both, but since you're speaking in the context of men, yes, it's difficult to come back from that.
And that's just one. So there's many other things that women will say. We've had this conversation before. Women who earn more than the man say, what do you bring to this thing?
Yeah.
What kind of man are you?
Or the comparison, so-and-so's husband does...
Look at Agri.
Yeah.
Agri was your classmate. How can he be doing that much better than you? What?
Banange. So yeah, I think that as I was talking about women, we need to consider that men have feelings too. They may not be as expressive as we are, but to be careful with your words, to be careful with, even how you approach conversations and conflict, and just to have the bigger picture in mind, which is we want to stay married. There's a whole generation depending on us and depending on this marriage. We have children who are looking at us and they want for us to model a safe and secure marriage for them to feel safe and secure. And so I think that both ways, we need to consider each other. We need to be nice to each other if we are going to actually overcome conflict. And if the conflict, once you're able to do that, then you enjoy the benefits of, we overcame that.
Yeah.
You look back at the things that you fought over and you're like, what was that fight about? Like, and you don't even have memory of it.
I don't think I remember more than 2 fights we've ever had.
I think there were the major ones. There were pivotal ones.
Those ones, yeah. Apart from those, all the other things, no. Honestly,
very faint memory.
Yeah, hardly. I have one life hack for the women. Trust me. You do this, you increase your chances of happy marriage by about 300%. Right?
This is a sales pitch.
No, I'm saying
life hack.
Touch your man.
Touch your man?
Touch him.
Babe, that's your context.
Agree, am I right? Listen. And I'm not talking about just it like being sexual, right? I'm just saying.
Touch him.
Okay. You're walking past the man in the house, put your hand on him. There's something about that for men that makes them feel seen, loved, wanted. Men want to be wanted. They don't know how to express it, but they want to feel it.
Yeah.
Fortunately for you, me, I'm very candid. Me, I will tell you, I want to be touched. Right?
Yeah, I need to go to school for this.
No, and I ask myself, I'm like, but where does this thing come from? But I realize that because it feels good.
It must come from. We need to examine where it comes from.
It's all the men. So touch the man. Touch him on the shoulder, touch him on the thigh, touch the back of his neck. You don't have to even say anything. When you're just passing by the kitchen, whatever, just pass by, touch the guy for 2 seconds. You can see how Agri is nodding, isn't it? Listen, it is a proper hug. You know what it does? It says to the man that I am aware of you. Because I think the challenge is that for a lot of you women, you get so caught up in the business of running things and doing all those things that men in many ways feel neglected and abandoned.
Which is recipe for conflict.
A lot of conflict, or even worse, right? So just being able to touch the man on the neck, touch him on the shoulder, touch him on the thigh, pull his ladies. I
want the men who are watching this show, please type if you agree with this life hack, because I feel like it is too simplistic.
Okay, fine. So if you're a man and you agree with me, I think that most of your viewers are women. So
the men are there, they just don't comment.
If you're a woman, okay, go and try this hack. Try it consistently for 3 or 4 days, and then come back and comment and share your experience. I can assure you, I am right about this one. It's a proper life hack for happy marriage. Touch the man.
Touch the man.
Touch him often.
Touch him
everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful way to end this show. We are done, please. I hope that this has been helpful in some shape or form. For the men, please, I hope your women can touch you as much as you want to be touched. For the women, please consider your husband and his feelings and his emotions. And let's resolve this conflict. The more conflict you have that's unresolved, the more likely you are to separate. Yeah. Because now we have irreconcilable differences. I have a gift for you that I think is it's here.
You do?
Mm-hmm. A gift for you which is going to end up in my what do you call it?
Wait, is it one of those?
I'm not going to manage
give me a gift and it's yours? Okay, it's all right.
Anyway, so Newman's, our amazing partners.
Yeah, Rosette. Hi, Rosette.
Of the best snacks in Uganda. Guys, if you go to the supermarket, by the way, they are everywhere. You cannot miss them. So Newman's snacks, taste the magic. They have some amazing potato crisps, gonja crisps, nuts, sim. They have juice. They have peanut butter. They have a lot. So your home is sorted, and so there's an assortment for you.
Can I ask you something? Mm-hmm. How easy is it for you to do a mention for Newman's? Because this is not even a this is not a mention, is it?
Easy because Rosette is my girl. Forever supporting her. So here,
this one is not for even. This is not a gig. This is best out on emotion. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, popcorn.
Yes, there's popcorn. I know you and Mike are going to enjoy those.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So I recently got you something from Recent Naturals.
You want me to share about
No, I want to be the one to share.
Oh, okay.
So I have been training this man over here to just be in touch with his feminine side, just a little bit, moisturize his feet. You know, for those of you who are married, you know how these men, they just shower and wear sandals and get out of the house. Dry, scaly feet. I'm like, whose husband is that? Put some lotion. Anyway, after how many years?
11.
Yeah, he finally got the hamemo, started putting lotion. I would see him once in a while, be like, I don't think that's going to last. Now these days when he's putting oil on his body, he's like, babe, thank you for making me moisturize. I'm like, you are taking this a bit too far. Anyway, these products I support. This is Recent Naturals. They are the makers of...
Wait. Allow me to do this one because I'm the one who is the beneficiary. Okay. So, she's right. I'm typical Munyankole man. Lotion for what? Those are things. Until my feet started scaling, like literally shedding skin like a snake. And I'd go to the swimming pool and I'd look at my feet and I'd be embarrassed to walk around. So,
wow.
And then you got me this, and I started using it for my feet, but also for my hair. The only challenge is that being a man, I find that grooming takes time. So I'm having now to reduce my sleep by 15 minutes to account for grooming. But I love it.
Yeah.
You
You look nice.
But you've seen me do so.
You look put together.
So, gentlemen, please, when you're calling men especially, please learn how to groom. There's nothing wrong with the grooming.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
So Risa Naturals, they have products for both men and women. Body butters, body oils, and they smell amazing.
They do smell nice, yeah.
They smell really nice. Body scrubs as well. So do go by, get yourself some of their products and their own Instagram as well, so you can follow for more information.
It has my name on it.
It does. There's a special gift for you for all my guests.
Thank you.
Thank you to our partners, Risa Naturals and Newman's. Thank you for coming along with me on The Good Wife to spread the gospel of good health in marriages. And as we do that, we moisturize and we eat good crisps and good snacks. Yeah, we'll be back again next week. Thank you for joining us. Leave us a comment, share this episode, and remember to subscribe. God bless. Until next week. Bye-bye.